Okay.
Yikes. All right, 6:30. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to the May Plan Commission for the town of Fortville. I'd like to invite you all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Liberty. With their mics on. And those on the line hear us?
Loud and clear.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah. All right, Andy, can you run us through roll call, please?
Do so. Jason Stein,
Here.
Amanda Jeschke,
Here.
Nathan Stradevin,
Here.
Cheyenne Hoffa.
Here.
And we are missing Jason Snyder, Brittany Layton, Dan Justice.
Awesome. Thank you very much. The first order of business tonight is for the commission to consider approving the minutes of the April 25, 2023 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Any changes, updates, modifications as presented? None. I look for a motion for approval.
I will make a motion to approve the April 25th Plan Commission meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Minutes are passed. Thank you. All right, we will move to the sole topic of new business tonight. Case number STP 02-2023 Mercy Road Church Expansion Site Plan. The commission tonight will consider a petition by the Mercy Road Church to approve a concept site plan, elevations, landscaping, and lighting for a proposed 15,000 square foot expansion of the church at 611 Vitality Drive for a all-time day or for a daycare center, excuse me. So with that, Adam, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to you for the presentation, please.
For the record, I'm Adam Zaklakowski, the Planning and Building Director for the town of Fortville. So as Mr. Sturdivant said, the case before you tonight is involving an expansion to Mercy Road Church. As you said, it's at 611 Vitality Drive, which is right behind the southeast corner of Broadway and Vitality Drive. And of course, I'll show some maps here momentarily. The parcel that they own is about 18.6 acres. Zoning on the property is business-3 or B3 as it's called. And that's been grandfathered from Hancock County. So it's a zoning district that we recognize in Fortville. The current use of the property is institutional. It's a religious facility. And simply put, the church would like to expand their current building to add approximately 15,600 square feet for new offices, a daycare center, including a parking lot expansion. And they're seeking this approval of a concept site plan, landscape, building elevation, and lighting. It should be noted that in April, the Board of Zoning Appeals, or BZA, approved the following variances. The first one that they approved allowed 9-foot wide parking spaces instead of 10 feet in the newly expanded lot. And then the existing lot would also be seal coated and restriped to allow 9-foot wide spaces as well. And then the second variance that was granted allowed no perimeter curbing around the parking lot. If we take a look at the aerial, you can see the principal structure, the church, is over here. And then there is some active farm ground on the property. If we look over to the west, we've got the Vernon Township Fire Department and the Vernon Township offices, and then over to the north, in front of the building, essentially on a separate parcel, is a small commercial building. We can always refer back to any of these photos as needed. This is just an oblique aerial, as we call it. This is looking towards the south, so you can get a bit of a better view of the current facility. And then this is a street view image that was taken from Google. If we take a look at the zoning map, again, you can see that the property in question is that shade of green, which indicates that it's a grandfathered zoning district. So in this case, it's business-3. That commercial property to the north is also business-3. Over to the east is the Old Bridge neighborhood, and that's zone residential 2.5. Over to the south, there's some residential land in Hancock County, residential 1.0. Over to the west is commercial neighborhood in Fortville. If we take a look at the concept site plan, you can see a couple important things. One is where they'd like to put this addition on the building. It would be built to the east. And then at the same time, they would be putting in this expanded parking lot to the east as well. So in terms of the staff review or the analysis on this particular request, typical items that we take a look at this point would be starting with access. That remains unchanged to the property. It's still via Vitality Drive, and they are providing the mandatory 24-foot wide parking lot aisles for the new expanded parking lot as prescribed by the zoning ordinance. The setbacks in the B-3 zoning district require 50 feet on the front, 15 feet on the side, and then 15 feet in the rear. So obviously no issues here with it being such a large parcel. Now, if we take a look at the parking, the way that the zoning ordinance works is that it's based upon the type of use of the property, and then each of the various sub-uses that are on the property all get added together to formulate a total. So just to give you a quick rundown, the three categories that would apply here would be all per the zoning ordinance. First one is gathering space, non-business, which is that you need to have one space per 3 seats in a church. The second one is professional office, which is one space per 300 square feet. And then daycare is one space for every 6 children permitted by capacity in the building. So when we add those three categories together, and including the existing church, they'd have to have 171 spaces by ordinance, and they're providing 175. So they are providing more than is required, and would have enough for this particular expansion. Should be noted, of course, that they're also providing ADA parking in accordance with the ordinance and federal and state law. They're also providing a bicycle rack that's in accordance with the ordinance. If we take a look at the concept landscaping plan, you can see that the area is very well landscaped around the parking, in addition to the foundation of the building expansion. And so they are providing those shrubs and trees around the site, including within that new parking area as required. As I mentioned, parking lot screened with landscaping as required, building foundation plantings provided as required, and lastly, no invasive plants are being used either. In terms of screening, the existing dumpster should be screened per ordinance when the expansion is completed. We do have a suggested condition on that. And the mechanical equipment, whether it's ground mounted or roof mounted, would be screened, and we would confirm that on the final building construction plans. Moving right along, taking a look at the concept lighting plan, you can see they've done a photometric calculation. They've also provided, as we call them, cut sheets for the various types of parking lot lighting that they'd have. And in terms of that plan, the parking lot lights that are shown on the plan, 25-foot maximum poles would be fully shielded. So the light would be directed downward and not outward as required per the code. And then all building mounted lighting must point downward. We would confirm that on the final building construction plans. The photometric plan also shows that no light spillover is going on to adjacent properties. In terms of drainage, as that's a typical question that comes up, especially from nearby property owners. The county surveyor's office is reviewing the drainage proposal right now. There are some modifications to the dry detention basin that's on the property, and it is near a floodplain. Quite a bit of the property that's undeveloped is in the floodplain, and it would involve some cut and fill of those areas in order to meet the floodplain requirements as well as the retention and detention requirements. And at this point, we have no reason to believe that there'd be any adverse impact to neighboring properties. So we would not issue any sort of permit until we get the authorization from the county surveyor's office. Here are the concept building elevations for the new expansion. They are pretty basic. I would say that really at this point in speaking with the petitioner, they're conceptual. It is subject to fundraising by the church. The main scope at this time, frankly, is the need to add additional parking to accommodate the current church needs and the future addition in concept. But what we can say is that based on that basic rendering per the B3 zoning, the maximum height allowed is 45 feet. The drawing shows about 25 feet to the roof peak, so no issues there. Really out of all the different code provisions, the one that would directly impact this would be that wall recess or projections are required at least 12 inches for every 70 feet of facade. So the projection shall extend for 20% of the length. And then it should be noted that architectural metal is allowed if desired. Because the building today does have, I believe, architectural metal on at least a portion of it. And in terms of architectural metal, an example would be the Moondrops Distillery down the street that use that material. In terms of the community response to this request, all the public hearing requirements have been completed. That included putting legal ad in the Greenfield Reporter, posting a sign on the property, and then doing a mailing to nearby property owners. And at this point, we're not aware of any remonstrance to this proposal. So with that, my recommendation from staff would be to approve the request, which would include the concept site plan, concept landscape plan, concept building elevations, and concept landscape plan, but make it subject to a couple of basic conditions. Number one, that the existing dumpster shall be screened in accordance with the ordinance upon completion of the building expansion. And then secondly, as I had mentioned, pertaining to the architecture, for the expansion, that wall recess or projections are required at least 12 inches for every 70 feet of facade, and that projection shall extend for 20% of the length. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those. And the applicant's engineer, Eric Leisner, is here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Any questions for Adam before we move on? No? Okay, quick rundown of how we'll handle the case. We will ask the petitioner to come up and speak on behalf of the case. And then we will move to any public comment for or against the project. And once the public has had their chance to speak, we will invite any government officials that would like to speak. And then we will request that the petitioner come back up and answer any questions, comments, concerns that were raised. So with that, if anyone is here on behalf of the petitioner, like to invite them to the mic. If you could say and spell your first and last name and how you represent the case.
Sure. Eric Gleisner with Civil Site Group. Last name is Gleissner, 718 Adams Street, Carmel, Indiana. I'm the civil engineer for the project representing Mercy Road Church. Adam did a great detailed job of describing everything, so I don't have a whole lot to add. Other than right now, the main focus, the church is leasing 30 parking spaces from the commercial outlet for Sunday service, and they still don't have enough parking. They're still having to park people on the grass. So we really need to get this parking expansion done. But the addition for the daycare is also in the works. So we wanted to bring that in front of you all at once to make sure it's planned for and we have all our bases covered. It is subject to fundraising, but I do think that's going to happen and perhaps even sooner rather than later. So we have been in contact with Chad Koffenauer, the county surveyor. We had a meeting with him before we started any of this. We submitted plans and calculations to them at the same time we submitted to Fortville. We're still waiting on comments, but I think we have a strategy planned out to get all that taken care of to mitigate any impacts to the floodplain. Back when this commercial outlet was developed, they actually increased the size of that detention basin and planned for additional capacity to provide for what we're doing right now. So we're not actually going to be modifying the detention basin. So mainly the surveyor's office, we're dealing with them mainly for the best management practice as well as fill in the floodplain. Wherever we fill in the floodplain, we have to excavate elsewhere in the floodplain based on a ratio calculated by their formula. Let's see. The conditions, yeah, we're agreeable to all of that, screening the existing dumpster, so on and so forth. We did get a couple of variances on this to slim the parking spaces down to 9 feet from 10. That allowed us to get to the parking number that we really need to not have to lease spaces or park people offsite or on the grass. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, any questions?
Do they see any issues with the larger vehicles that show up at the church fitting in the 9-foot spaces?
So 9-foot spaces is pretty standard in about 99% of the places that we do work. You know, I have a big SUV. I always have driven a pickup truck. Getting a 9-foot space can sometimes be a little tight. You just have to find the right one where the people are parked. 10-foot is a little bit easier, but it's, 9-foot is pretty standard. So I don't foresee any problems, even with a bunch of pickup trucks and large SUVs. 9-foot is everywhere else, and we find a way to make it work.
Any other questions?
What's the outlet you're talking about?
The commercial outlet right here that has the multi-tenant commercial
Oh, okay,
building.
the doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, I attend that church. I didn't realize we leased that. I see everybody parking over in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So originally when this was Bridge Church,
Yep.
That was undeveloped up there and they just wanted to raise some revenue. So they subdivided and sold that property and had it developed. And as part of the agreement of that, they agreed to expand the detention pond and plan for some future development for the church.
I do have one question. You mentioned that you guys are amenable to the first condition. Is the second condition with the recess? Is that
Yeah, that
also
shouldn't be a
something?
problem.
Okay, that's
So
something.
the architect is just a little bit behind us right now.
Sure.
They're kind of just getting the wheels rolling, but they're going to plan to conform to your requirements.
Okay.
The front of the building ideally is going to look exactly like the existing front of the church, and they want it to look like it's a seamless, one building, not like it was piecemeal together.
Sure.
That's the plan.
Single development. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner at this time? All right. Well, don't go too far. Maybe questions, although it's a lighter crowd tonight. With that, I will move on to the public response. If anybody's here that would like to speak for or against the proposal, I would invite you to come to the mic or speak up on Zoom, and we would be happy to hear you. All right, well, hearing none, we'll move on to government officials. Anything that would like to be said for or against? Getting a head shake, no. All right, well, we may not need you back at the mic unless there's any other clarifying questions from the crew here.
Not.
Okay. Well, with that, I will request a motion from the commission to approve with conditions, or deny the concept site plan, elevations, landscaping, and lighting. And if we need to break anything up, we can. Otherwise, I think we can do it as a a single vote.
I motion to approve case number STP 022023 Mercy Road Church Expansion Site Plan as designed.
Should we put conditions on that?
I don't have any conditions.
Adam's conditions, do we need to state those?
Well, so I guess if you're making the motion without conditions, we'll need to finalize that motion. He had the two conditions, but if you don't want to add those, that's fine.
I don't have any other conditions.
Yeah, what I would suggest, if you're inclined to have a motion to approve it with the two conditions shown above, you could just say suggest a motion to approve with the two conditions outlined by staff in the report.
Okay, I meant to approve with the two conditions outlined by staff.
you
There we go.
Okay.
I didn't want it to imply that we were adding any conditions.
No.
And site plan, elevations, landscaping and lighting.
I will
Do I have a
second.
second? Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. With that, I'll open up to any board comments before we wrap it up this evening. All righty, well, I will look for a motion to. Is there anybody on? Oh, it looks like. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. Very much appreciate your participation, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All right, we got a second?
Second.
All right, at 6:51, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.